Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to yet another episode of Worst Take. I'm your host, Garland, aka the King of Bad Takes, and I'm so excited to bring you guys my Week 5, heading into Week 6 rendition of the NFL Power Rankings. Guys, before we get into the video, please be sure to leave a like, subscribe, comment. I'm looking for 10 likes on this video. That's super easy to get, guys. I know we can get there really fast. Sorry that I haven't uploaded in a little bit. I was just kind of feeling like there wasn't a lot to talk about, right? A lot of these teams, I kind of already said my take on them, but I think that there's a lot of movement right now, and it's going to be very exciting to go over pretty much everything that I've seen the last few weeks of football. Because, as you guys know, last 2 weeks have been getting pretty spicy, right? We're having a lot of high-scoring games, a lot of teams coming out of the woodworks, a lot of teams are kind of solidifying who they are, and it's been pretty exciting to watch a lot of these teams come into full form. So anyways, without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right into the list. As always, guys, on your screen right now is last week's Power Rankings. I know I didn't upload a video about this, but this is who I have. So you guys just want to go over this real quick, go ahead and pause the video. But I'm going to go ahead and jump right into the worst team in the NFL. Right now, it's the New England Patriots, guys. I know I've had a few different teams occupy this bottom spot in the last few weeks, but it's the Pats. They're just god-awful. Wow, their offense is the worst in the NFL, offensive line worst in the NFL, and the defense really isn't as good as a lot of the Patriots' defenses of the past. So they're the worst team. Up next, I have the Browns. Obviously, they're just terrible. And then I have the Dolphins, who almost lost to the Pats and got demolished by the Titans. They're terrible without Tua, which I honestly find very surprising because I always felt like Tua was a system quarterback. But honestly, right now, it's kind of looking like Tua is the system. So, Dolphins being bad is kind of looking good for Tua. But anyways, guys, I have the Panthers going down into the first overall pick speed runs here. And yeah, the Panthers just lost to the Bears this week. They got demolished. Bears is a good defense, and Caleb Williams looked incredible. But, the Panthers were like tackling themselves. It literally looks like the Panthers want to lose. So they're just that bad. Anyways, we're going to move on to the next tier. We're going to move these guys up. The Jaguars are the bottom of the not making playoffs tier. And yeah, Jacksonville had a very high offensive game against the Colts. No Anthony Richardson in that game, but Joe Flacco put up an excellent game against them. Regardless, Jacksonville offense looked a lot better. Tank Bigsby is looking incredible as a weapon. So, if he can continue to put up big production like that, the Jaguars have something. I don't know why ETN looks so stagnant right now compared to him. But Trevor Lawrence is still not looking good. He played suboptimal, and the Jaguars were still able to pick up their first one of the season. So that's encouraging, at least. Then up next, I have the Titans, who are on a bye week, so not really going to go over them. They did beat the Dolphins, but Will Levis got hurt, so who knows? Mason Rudolph might be starting. We don't really know what's going on there. So up next, I have the LA Rams, who are coming off of a very close loss to the Packers. And the reason why I have them this low, even though they did look pretty solid and they're missing some of their stars, is because, I just don't think that they have it in them to win games, right? I feel like they're going to be competitive and they're going to stay in these games, but the Packers are a fierce opponent, but they don't have what it takes to win these games. You know what I mean? And there's a lot of NFC teams right now that are very good and that are just looking a lot better than the Rams are right now. And so I feel like it's kind of justified to keep them this low. They don't really have that explosive offense right now, but once they get back their star receivers, they're probably going to move up the tiers. Then we're going to go ahead and put the Seattle Seahawks down here, who have just dropped 2 straight. First one was acceptable. It was against the Lions, of course, great opponent. But this time against the Giants, we're going to talk about the Giants in a second, but wow, that game was just completely blew me out of the water. I was not expecting that whatsoever. So let's go ahead and talk about the Giants real quick. They actually look like they have a sneaky good team. They didn't have Malik Neighbors this game, and Daniel Jones put up his best performance in 2.5 years. This was awesome to watch. Daniel Jones and Wan'Dale Robinson and Darius Slayton, they put up some great connections. And Tracy is his name. Tracy, he looks really good out there. It looks like they got their replacement for Saquon. I think he's a fifth round pick, so that's awesome. If he can continue to put up great numbers, I know Seattle's a bit of a softer defense, but if he continues to look good, the Giants have a sneaky good offense going right there. If Daniel Jones can continue to put up just consistency, that's all he really needs. And Malik Neighbors comes back, that offense doesn't look that bad. I was underestimating them. Looking back in hindsight, right? They beat the Browns, whatever. They did almost beat the Commanders as well, which we now know the Commanders are actually a really good team. So, that's, they got something there. It's not like they're a trash team. Anyways, up next, I have the Chicago Bears, who did just beat the Panthers, like we already discussed. Caleb Williams looked pretty good. DJ Moore looked pretty good. DeAndre Swift finally had a good game. Again, it was against the Panthers, so kind of got to take it with a grain of salt. But, defense still looks good. Nothing much has changed. Up next, I have the Las Vegas Raiders, as I've been told. Not the Oakland Raiders anymore, apparently. Anyways, the Las Vegas Raiders, they benched Gardner Minshew, which should tell you everything you need to know. He has been looking extremely mid. I don't think they had Devontae Adams this game, but in general, it's not looking great for Minshew Magic. In O'Connell, he's not looking great. He didn't have a good game. So it's looking kind of doomed at quarterback over in Las Vegas, apparently not Oakland. They got fucking shellacked by the Broncos, which is kind of embarrassing to allow the Broncos to put up that many points, but I think they had like a pick six, right? Or like a fumble recovery for 6. I know Pat Surtain scored a touchdown, so not looking great in Las Vegas right now. Anyways, I have the Bengals being down here. I know that they just lost again, but this was actually their most impressive loss of the season. Came down to a fumbled kick, which is insane to think about, that they almost beat the Ravens. It is a divisional game, but in general, the defense just got completely walked over by Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry. But Joe Burrow looks incredible, right? He looks so fucking good. Top 3 quarterback in the league right now. And he is lighting people up in the last couple weeks. So that's very good to see. And they're going to keep doing that. They're going to face some not so tough opponents, and they're going to string together some wins. I have no doubt. So Bengals are going to be back. They just need to be against a team that cannot take advantage of their extremely weak defense. All right, up next, I have the Indianapolis Colts, who are coming off of a pretty embarrassing loss to the Jaguars. Joe Flacco put up a very, very impressive game. There was no Jonathan Taylor this game, so that's actually a pretty big loss for them, and one of the main reasons why they didn't really weren't really able to stick in this game. Like Trey Sermon was just not getting done. So with Jonathan Taylor, I do feel like the Colts take this win home, but in general, like, they're pretty banged up. Their receivers still look great. Defense, not so great, but in general, I think that the Colts are a pretty solid team all around. Then moving on, I do have the Jets going down here. Robert Saleh did just get fired today, this morning of this recording. And in general, I think that's a very good move for the Jets. He's not a good head coach. He's a fucking asshole. I don't like him. And I hope that they are able to find somebody better. I know that the defensive coordinator is now the interim head coach, and he's been doing a great job over there, so hopefully that kind of translates. But yeah, I don't know. Like, the Jets, they look dysfunctional on offense. They have so much talent. They have all the talent in the world that they need, but like, the offense just cannot string together consistent drives down the field. I know that they just lost to the Vikings, who are a very good team as well. Sam Darnold did get hurt for a couple plays, came back in, but the defense was able to kind of shut him down a lot. He was making a lot of like errant throws, and I think that the defense did a pretty good job. So in general, the Jets still have the talent, still have the firepower, but right now they're just not getting a ton. Like that, like 2-3 right now is not great. They beat the Titans and they beat the Pats. Like, that's nothing. Anyways, moving on, I have the Cowboys right above them, they did just beat the Steelers, but I do think that the NFC is a lot stronger than the AFC. So like, I think that the Cowboys are a better team than the Steelers. So that game did convince me, but right now the Steelers are more likely to make the playoffs than the Cowboys are, so that's why I have them above them on the tier list. CeeDee Lamb and Dak Prescott had an argument during that game, and CeeDee Lamb's production basically fell off a cliff after that, so I don't really know what's going on there. He's been getting extremely emotional this season, so we got to see like what develops there, but Dak Prescott looked fine, I guess. He threw 2 picks throughout the game, which was pretty insane. He's the first ever quarterback to throw an interception on back-to-back days since that game did go over midnight. So that's pretty impressive. Good job, Dak. And yeah, the Cowboys, I mean, they have no run game, but they did fine against the Steelers. Steelers are a tough defense, so take it for what you will. Anyways, I have the 49ers moving down into this tier. Yeah, they just lost to the Cardinals, who again, I do think is a really good team. I think they're a sleeper team, but in general, they've lost 2 straight, 3 straight, and they're tough opponents, right? But they just lost 2 straight to their own division, the Rams and the Cardinals, so that is looking really not great for their playoff picture. And they lost to the Vikings, so even if they get a lot of wins down the stretch, they're probably not going to get the first seed. It's not looking great for that. But in general, I mean, the 49ers, like, they have all the talent. Brock Purdy is kind of in a bit of a slump right now. It's 2 divisional games, so it's kind of hard to tell because divisional games, again, you got to kind of take them with a grain of salt. Teams are more, like, comfortable against each other, so you kind of have, like, a lot of upset wins. But, yeah, the Cardinals are a good enough team, and I have them right above them, actually. I'm going to move these guys up into the next tier because that's where they belong. But, yeah, the Cardinals are a good enough team where, like, I'm not too upset about this 49ers loss. But in general, Kyler Murray for the Cardinals is looking incredible. Marvin Harrison is still awesome, right? James Conner is still running the ball like crazy. The defense looks good some games and awful some other games, so it's kind of shaky. In general, I still have a lot of hope for the Cardinals. They can definitely squeak in a playoff spot. Up next, I have the New Orleans Saints, who are coming off of a loss to the Chiefs on Monday Night Football. And this was just a boring, fucking stagnant game for them. They did a pretty good job at stopping the Chiefs offensively for the most part. But in general, the Chiefs just had the ball for like the majority of the game. They had the ball for like 3/4 of the game. It was fucking stupid. But yeah, I mean, they couldn't really get a lot going on offense. They had that one deep bomb to Shaheed, which was awesome. But Kamara couldn't really get anything going on the ground. And it's just because the Chiefs just have like the best defense in the NFL. And so it's not like the Saints are crumbling right now. They're just facing some really good defenses, some really good teams. And it's looking hard. They're facing some adversity right now. But I do still have faith that the Saints have enough talent, and Clint Kubiak is good enough of an offensive coordinator that they're going to be, right back on the train, and they're going to get it going. And I do think that they can still squeak in a playoff spot. Up next, I have the Pittsburgh Steelers dropping out of the bottom of the playoff likely tier. And, yeah, they're coming off a loss to the Cowboys. Justin Fields didn't look his best. He played fine, but not his best game by a long shot. Obviously, the run game didn't really do fucking shit. And the defense held the Cowboys as much as they could, but in the end, they lost the game. So, I mean, what can you say about that? Up next, I have the Denver Broncos, who are rattling off some pretty interesting wins recently, and they just look weird. They're a gritty team that's just gonna grind you to a halt. They're like what the Steelers are. They're pretty much the same team. I mean, Bo Nix is mid as fuck, but it doesn't really matter when you have, again, one of the best defensive players in the NFL, Pat Surtain. Obviously, the Broncos have been blitzing almost every single play. I think it's like 50% of plays the Broncos are blitzing, so that's really contributing to their success. But in general, the Broncos, they have pretty much no offensive firepower if Bo Nix doesn't continue to improve, which, I mean, he might. Who knows? But in general, they're like the Steelers, but slightly better. Okay, up next, I have the Chargers, who are also a lot like the Steelers and the Broncos. They're just defensive teams that are just going to grind you to a halt. But unlike the Steelers and the Broncos, the Chargers rely more on their run game right now, which is pretty interesting when they have Justin Herbert at quarterback. It's a little bit weird, but whatever. I'm not making the decisions over there. Obviously, they had a bye week, so not much change right there. So we're going to move on to the Eagles, who are up next. And the Eagles, they also had a bye week, so again, not much going on right there. But anyways, we're going to move on to the next team on the list, which is the Commanders, who are looking incredible offensively. Jaden Daniels had his worst game of the year, which was still a very good game against the Browns. So it's the Browns. It's still a tough defense. And so Jaden Daniels looked still incredible. He threw some very beautiful deep bombs to Terry McLaurin. He had that long touchdown again, that long pass that almost went for a touchdown if he didn't trip. But Jaden Daniels is still like top quarterback, top 5-10 quarterback in the NFL right now as a rookie in his 5th week. It's fucking ridiculous. The offense is insane. Brian Robinson is looking awesome at running back. They did load manage him this week. Terry McLaurin's great as ever. Honestly, they have a bunch of pieces that are just randomly popping up right now, like Noah Brown. Austin Eckler's having a great year so far. The defense is leaving some things to be desired, but hey, it's a work in progress. It's a very young team as far as like superstars go, right? So they're going to continue to improve, and this team's looking very dangerous offensively. Okay, up next, I have the Buffalo Bills dropping down to the playoff likely tier. Much to my dismay, they lost 2 weeks in a row. 2 games that Sean McDermott threw. If you guys, I know I didn't record a video about the Ravens loss, but I was very pissed about it because obviously, if you guys watched that game, it looked like the Bills had momentum. Like they were going to come back in that game. It was 21-10. They were in Ravens territory, driving down the field, and they decide to do a stupid fucking trick play. And Josh Allen fumbles the ball and gets hurt, and the game's over. And guess what happened this game? It's a tie game. They're backed up to their own end zone, and they decide, hey, let's throw the ball down the field 3 fucking plays in a row. Stop the clock for the Texans. They drive right down the field, kick a fucking field goal, and the game's over. Like, what are these decisions that the Bills are making? Like, this is such a good team. They were 3-0, and then they just threw 2 games in a row. Like, against AFC major opponents. Like, these are teams that are competing for the 1 seed, right? Like, we're talking about the Texans, we're talking about the Ravens, and eventually the Chiefs, right? We're talking about teams that are must-wins. These are your competition in the AFC, and you're just going to throw these games. Like, it's so frustrating to watch. I'm not even a Bills fan. I can't even imagine what it's like being a Bills fan. Like, it's just maddening. Like, I can't even believe it. Like, you have Josh Allen, and he's playing incredible. He's playing out of this world. He didn't have a good game against the Texans. But, guys, if you guys watch that game, 9-30, what that's ass. But, like, he had to throw away every single pass because nobody's open. There's 0 time to throw the ball. Like, he takes a snap, and he's instantly pressured. I got to look at the stats of how much he was pressured that game, but it was a ridiculous amount of pressures, which, kudos to the Texans. But also, what the fuck is the offensive game plan right now? It's not working. They need to change this because this happened last week against the Ravens too, and you're just not letting Josh Allen cook. And that's what you have to do if you're going to win the game. Like, he can't be throwing the ball away every single play. It's embarrassing. It really is embarrassing. All right, up next I have the Tampa Bay Bucks, who just lost to the Falcons in a very tight game where Falcons had the majority of the time of possession. The Bucks ended up scoring off some short field position, so a lot of the stats looked a little bit weird, a little bit skewed. It was kind of a funky game, but in general, the Bucks looked pretty solid offensively. Defensively, what the fuck happened? They didn't even show up. It literally looked like an empty field. The Falcons had just free reign over that game. They literally were just slinging passes to wide open receivers. Like, I mean, I'm gonna get to them in a minute, but in general, this was like a defensive meltdown by the Bucks. It was just awful. After how good their defenses played against the Eagles, I just don't understand this team. Like, I said this a couple weeks ago. Like, they're so inconsistent. Like, I want to put them high up as a contender, but like, they are just so inconsistent. They'll beat some great teams, and then they'll melt down against some awful teams or some other good teams, right? I'm not saying Falcons are awful. Like the Broncos, for example. Like, they melted down. Like, I just don't really get what's going on in Tampa right now. But in general, like, Baker's still looking good. Mike Evans looks good. Chris Godwin looks good. Bucky Irving, right? I think is his name. He looks pretty good. Rashad White's looking good. Like, the offense is good. Defense, no idea what the fuck's going on. Up next, I have the Green Bay Packers. Let's go ahead and move these guys out of the tier. Coming off a win to the Rams. It came down to the wire. Defense has still been looking pretty good. Not really a lot's changed about the Packers. Jordan Love's a little bit shaky here and there, but in general, he's getting the job done. He's got all the receiver talent in the world. So, Josh Jacobs still looks good. So, yeah, I mean, in general, Packers are kind of the same. Not a lot to say there. Anyways, up next, I have the Falcons, who are moving up a lot after completely dismantling the Bucks. Yeah, I've never seen somebody throw for 500 yards and 5 touchdowns on less impressive throws than I just watched Kirk Cousins did. Like, it was just wide open targets all night long. Like, I don't think there was a single throw. I mean, there might have been like 1 or 2 that was like really impressive, but like he threw like 58 passes or some bullshit. Like, this was just a complete defensive breakdown by the Bucs. They had no idea what to do. It was wide open targets left and right. I mean, Bijan did his thing. Like, Darnell Mooney looks awesome. Like, Darnell Mooney is so fast. I know he did drop that pass and almost lost him the game, but I mean, hey, he caught the touchdown at the end, right? So who cares? In general, yeah, the Falcons, they do look pretty fierce, pretty intimidating, but I'm not entirely sold on Kirk Cousins yet. I think that he needs to really put together like a more impressive 500 yards and 4 touchdowns. People are going to look at me like I'm fucking insane for thinking that's not impressive, but like, if you watch that game, like, everybody was wide open. I don't know what the fuck happened. Like, I need to see Kirk Cousins turn it up like that more consistently, because before that game, he was not doing that, and I think he's going to continue to not do that. I think this was sort of like a fluky game. I don't think he's going to really return to that, but I could be entirely wrong. But in general, until Kirk Cousins comes back to that form, which he might be capable of, I'm not saying he's not, the Falcons are going to stay kind of like where they are. Okay, up next, I have the Detroit Lions, who are coming off of a bye week where they beat the Seahawks the week before. And they did get a little bit banged up, so this is good that they have an early bye week. But Lions, again, same thing. Great offense, poor defense. Rush defense is fine, but pass defense is, got a little bit to be desired. All right, up next in the fourth slot, I have the Houston Texans, who are coming off a big win against the Bills. Their defense looked incredible, completely shut down Josh Allen and whatever the fuck that Sean McDermott was trying to do. C.J. Stroud looks awesome still. Nico Collins did go down. He's going to be missing some time, so that's a big loss for them. But the Texans just look awesome right now. I mean, C.J. Stroud is really coming into his full, and the receiving core is all there. Stephon Diggs looks good. Tank Dell still looks good. And, yeah, I mean, Texans defensively are improving, which is what they really need. And I like to see that a lot. So I have Texans almost as Super Bowl favorite if it weren't for the fucking Chiefs. After the Texans, I have the Baltimore Ravens, who are coming off of a very tight win over the Bengals in overtime. That was an awesome fucking game. Derrick Henry popped off in overtime, and Lamar Jackson popped off the entire game. He's looking incredible. He's probably looking like the best quarterback in the NFL right now. Potentially another MVP season coming his way. Defense did not hold up against the Bengals, which is very concerning, but they did look really good against the Bills, and they've looked good in other weeks, so I'm not too concerned about that. But in general, yeah, the Ravens still look very, very good. And then top two is going to stay the same. It's the Chiefs and it's the Vikings. They both have incredible defenses. The Chiefs are the best defense in the NFL. Mahomes has been looking better, I guess. So Kelsey's been looking better as well, so that's very good for them. Not great for me because I don't like either of them, but the Vikings, they have the best offensive line in football, maybe behind the Lions, but at least top two. And obviously they're just stacked. They're just fucking stacked. Jordan Addison, Justin Jefferson, Aaron Jones, Sam Darnold looks good. He didn't look great against the Jets, but he looks good elsewise. And in general, I mean, the Vikings are just so fucking good. Van Ginkel is putting together a career year so far, and Harrison Smith is still looking great. So the defense is awesome. They're just a great fucking team all around. Number one. All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and look at the biggest movers of the... As you can see, the biggest movers this week were the Broncos going up 8 slots after stringing together another pretty good win, and the Giants moving up 7 slots after putting together a very impressive win against the Seahawks. I was kind of underestimating a lot of their hidden offensive talent. Then the biggest losers of the week were the 49ers, who lost 2 in a row, this time to the Cardinals, and the Seahawks, who just lost to the Giants. Here's the tier list one last time. Go ahead, leave a like, drop a comment, subscribe. Let me know what you guys think about my list. Who would you move around? Who's your number one team in the NFL? Who's your bottom team in the NFL? Who's your favorite team? I want to know all that. I'll go ahead and respond to all your comments. Anyways, guys, appreciate you sticking around to the end of the video. My name is Garland, a.k.a. the King of Bad Takes. You've been watching Worst Take. Stay tuned next week for the Week 6 NFL Power Rankings, and for tomorrow for my NFL quarterback rankings for this week. All right, guys, that just about wraps it up for this video. I'll see you all tomorrow. Peace.